Um, and my map doesn't really look quite, it's not to scale, but it's just kind of like a rough drawing of like the area.
Oh wait, could you put that up again?
It just, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look really anything like almost. The shapes are there. Um, cool. Okay, so first, I feel like we should just go over basically your description of like what you already know of the area. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a little tour via
Mhm.
Google Maps.
Sounds good.
So,
Yeah.
um, well, first I'll zoom out a little because you'll be able to see.
And I'm gonna grab a pen really quick so I can take notes. Oh, wow. Okay.
Woo!
Wow, way out.
Way out. So we're in Michigan. This is the northwestern side, Lake County. And I think if I double click, it'll zoom in. Okay. I'm still learning Google Earth. But Idlewild is in Lake County, Michigan, which, as you can imagine, is filled with lakes, as is most of Michigan. There are two major spring-fed lakes. So there's Idlewild over here. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's Idlewild, and then I'm right around the corner from Paradise Lake. And then there's these smaller ones. And right across the street is this really cool bog.
I see that. Yeah.
And so my property is this little outline. And this square is the house, the main house.
Okay.
This rectangle is the motel. And then there's a little cabana over here. And I even put in, you can see the house postcard.
Okay.
And then I just pointed like some of the plants that I remember where they were from last year. So there's this cool like arc semicircle of cedar. This lot is also, these roads are dirt roads.
Okay.
So this section is really, really sunny and nice. And when we first saw it in June, it was mostly strawberries and some wildflowers. And then by the late summer, fall, it was like all sassafras. This whole strip here. And we harvested some and gave them to some friends to see if they could propagate. But I thought that would be it could be a cool thing to figure out like stuff to do with them since they're already growing really well. But I would like to mix some other plants in here because it's really sunny. And there were some sugar maple in this area, just like one or two. Oh, there was also there's a cherry tree right in the backyard. It's pretty small.
Cool.
There were a couple lupin in between the house and the motel. And a friend gave me a bunch of tomato starts when I first got to Michigan in like June, and we thought we would figure out where we were going to be sooner, but I ended up planting them when we got the house in August, and they still actually gave a few tomatoes, which was cool.
Uh-huh. Cool.
And around the cabana is like this really lush moss, which I'm hoping I can help take over the grass. There's not a lot of grass. We found some juniper over here and some lady slipper, but most of these tree areas are oak,
Uh-huh.
and um, I would there is a oak wilt problem going around, and so a lot of them are dead. So that's another thing that I need to work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So would you think what would be you're saying that area where the sassafras and the strawberries were, it's sunny there now, or it's like the sunniest spot, would you say all season, or
I'd say it's the sunniest all season because
okay.
it's along um, the south. It's got like south facing, and there's not the trees. The closest trees aren't really obstructing the sun. The backyard actually is also like in between the house and the motel is
Mm-hmm.
pretty sunny. Like it's sunny enough that the tomatoes fruited and everything.
Okay, that's a good sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Um, there are more. It's not as long because of some of the trees in here
Mm-hmm.
do throw some shade.
Yeah.
So this other part is definitely sunnier, but it's still pretty good. Seems like.
Cool. Yeah, hearing that a lot of those oak trees are diseased or dead. So like what it there's like good news and there's bad news there. So the good news about it is, if the bad news is, you would have to clear it if you really wanted to do more with those parts of the land. And there's different ways of doing that, or incorporating the dead material somehow, so you don't have to do like real like major like demo of like removing the trees.
Right.
And I know that there are techniques of how to plant around or within dead trees to like kind of just use them in that sense, and that's really cool. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know it happens. I know in Humboldt, like a lot of dead redwoods will grow. What do they grow? Um, I can't remember which berry it is that just grows out of them naturally.
That's a cool idea. I've also been looking at the idea of um, inoculating with different mushrooms because I know
Yes.
that they really like oak. So
Yeah, that's another cool thing you can do with them.
Mhm.
And then what else was I gonna say? Yeah, you can inoculate them with fungi. You can grow plants in them. And if you were to, chop some of them down or saw some of them down, they're great to be used for hugel beds, if that was
Mhm.
something you were interested in. And then it's just a matter of location where you would want to build those mounds. Um, and then it would basically, what you would be doing is clearing out so that you'd have more canvas, more land to plant whatever you wanted. That again, that sunny area, that's the south facing part of the yard.
Well, down here,
That's
this
south.
direction is south,
Okay, that's what
but
I thought.
but
So
um
southeast.
yeah, the
Okay.
face. The long side is not facing south, but
Uh-huh.
the light hits the whole strip.
Okay, so southeast. So that would be the sunniest part all year. And then I would think in high summer, you're probably going to have the sun directly overhead going right through that midline between
Mm.
the two buildings, the
Mm-hmm.
motel and the house. So that's your summer sun sector right there, which, like kind of cuts the property in half from
Mm-hmm.
north to south. Um, and so theoretically, south and southwest are supposed to be some of the sunnier, warmer parts of a property. I think it's just because you probably have so many trees that isn't what's happening. And to the west, you've got more forest going towards where that bog is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good shelter. It's probably gonna protect you from winds. It's great that that's naturally over there, because then you don't have to worry about harsh winds really like kind of beating anything. Like you're really nicely sheltered overall.
Yeah.
But just in the immediate area of where you live, it might not be a bad idea to clear some of those trees and work with the wood. Um, and if not, again, like just being crafty about how to use dead trees, like we had just talked about. And then otherwise, as far as your sun sector, just whatever it is that naturally looks like are the sunnier areas, like the easiest way to handle it is to just start by having your vegetable and your herb gardens in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to get benefits within the year. So something with like, if you wanted to do major like management of the land, that would be something you'd probably do over like what, maybe 3 to 5 years, I would guess, because that takes time and it takes money. So the thing to think about is to think about in small steps building upon bigger steps. I mean, unless, and they say this even to people who have lots of money who can just do whatever they want. It's like you want to start smaller in the beginning anyway, no matter what, because if you do something dramatic and you invest money in a project and it doesn't work, then you have to go back to square one. Whereas if you're doing smaller plans, then it's easier to alter your plans as you go, and then you're actually going to better integrate your systems properly. There will be less repercussions on, if there's a small mistake, it's easier to fix. It's pretty logical,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I'm also um, working on making plans for other parts of the area to do some community spots. And one of the
Uh-huh.
biggest ones is just up this way.
Whoa.
Um, is this it? Yeah, this. So there's this boulevard right here, and this
Mm-hmm.
street is actually called Righteous. And it's just kind of, it's super sunny, this strip right here.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's begging for, even if it's just like a loop-in stretch, or like some kind of um, wildlife attracting zone.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just begging for like some beautification, that's kind of, well, that's definitely native and like will help regenerate
Yeah. I
something.
mean, it could be easy enough to do wildflowers there, like no problem.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, just
thinking making some bombs or something, and
yeah, that's just
not even
totally
getting.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that's always really fun and just magical.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
and we
lot.
found some wild, like around town, there's some, or at least naturalized, like mint bushes,
Uh-huh.
uh, what's that one vegetable? Asparagus.
Yum.
I didn't even know what it was. I was just like, what's this like bamboo looking thing?
Where's
They
that
look,
growing?
yeah, they look so weird. So there's definitely a lot of cool stuff that is kind of naturalized over time. I'm still exploring.
Where's your asparagus growing? Is
It
it
was
just
actually it was on this strip, the Righteous Boulevard,
okay?
um, and
The
also,
cool.
oh, go ahead.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's okay. I can say it after.
Also, so one of my here like local heroes that I've been researching here is Leela Wilson, and
Okay.
she was like a black socialist, and she started all of these little. There's a still a grocery store that she built, and her house is just around the corner from mine. Um,
Mhm.
and this road. So actually, this whole neighborhood where we're located is called Paradise Gardens,
Mhm.
and a lot of her leadership kind of made Idlewild get the moniker of Black Eden. And this road leading to her historical house also used to be, I guess, have a boulevard on it that was just packed with um, flowers and like this beautiful landscaping. And
Mhm.
so that's something else that I think about all the time of maybe at least starting with like some little flower bursts or something like along this road.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah, it's cool that you're already expansively thinking about how to beautify and improve like the neighborhood overall to help, you know. I mean, because in general that just magnetizes more nature into the area.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say about the asparagus is if it's growing wild and you know it's edible, that's something that it's perennial. It grows well even in colder weather, and it grows well even in shade. So if you had a shaded area and you don't really know what to do with it, I mean, there's lots of shade, semi-shade, perennials and annuals that will grow just fine. Yeah, in areas like that. And then that makes it easier. So then it's not like you have to clear an area. You can just utilize it in a different way.
Right. I did
Yeah.
also, I don't know where I'll be able to put them because I was reading that they prefer more basic soil, but I got black cohosh, wild ginger, and uh, what's the other one? Um, I can't remember in the moment.
Mm.
But
Yeah, wild.
they're all shade loving. So, but
Yeah.
I need to find some more like maple and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, shade gardens are nice when you know what you're doing. A lot of people tend to think again that like the answer is to just clear everything and make a sunny area, but if you just know how to work with shade and put the right things to grow there, then it really isn't a problem at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else was I gonna say? I'm just gonna look at my sheet really quick because there's a lot here. Sure. So just with like features, I've got like keywords for features. Do you know, it looks like a pretty flat layout of land. Would you say that that's accurate, or do you think that there's more slope to it than it looks like
No, it's
there is?
super flat.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool. That's interesting. That's good. The reason, let's see. And then, because I'm trying to just think of like water flow, like from rain and whatnot. And um, so I guess the main question to ask you right now without having to go through every single thing is like, what do you feel like your goals are for this year in particular or 3 years from now?
Mm. Um, this year, I mainly want to get like start building planting beds and figure out like you were saying the things that are easier to plant. Um, so have like the little veggie garden area and figure out a plan, like the longer term plan for like um, for trees and the things that need more infrastructure but are also more natural.
Hmm.
Um, and getting building like resources because there's not a lot of I found like two places that do native Michigan um, seed strains.
Uh-huh.
And so just getting a hold of them and figuring out, because there's also just a lot of different environments and zones within Michigan. Um,
Uh-huh.
so figuring out what within those would work for my area.
And what's your growing zone? Do you know?
It's 5B.
5B. It gets pretty cold there.
Super cold. And it's well, I mean with climate change, there's been traditionally a really prolific cherry culture, and a
Okay.
lot of the cherry growers are converting to vineyards because the unpredictable like late spring freezes are messing up, like the cherries just won't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that being a thing, I guess, out here on the East Coast more so that and I guess I've heard this even when I was in Tennessee, is that there's often like a late cold snap, like in March. Yeah, that kind of will, if you have plans, it kind of offsets everything. And that's something to be mindful of, I guess. Um, let's see. But so as far as passive irrigation sources, if that's something you're interested in, you might have to consider, I don't know if you would think about like are you on city water or do you have groundwater at all? Anything like that?
I'm on well water.
Well water.
Yeah. There is city water available, I think,
Hmm.
but I don't know how that works.
Uh-huh. And then when you have water usage in the house, were you thinking you would do something like gray water, or would you do water catch on the houses, anything like that?
Yeah, I would love to do rain to get some rain catch systems going.
Hmm.
The house actually, I was wanting to do some gray water stuff, and they already like I just got the pipes redone because it was really bad. But the kitchen sink and the laundry and utility room are in, I can't remember what it's called, but they basically just go out into the sand in the yard.
Yeah.
So I
And
was like, oh, it's already kind of gray water, but
what area is that?
so that would be, let's zoom in here. The kitchen is in the front of the house, which is here, and then the laundry room is over here. So I guess the bathroom is around here, and there is a septic field
Oh,
in the yard.
that's good to be aware of.
I'll put that in there.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that. Yeah.
I also really, for the longer term thing, I really want to build like a bog garden somewhere in the yard. It's just
Yeah.
pitcher plants and cool stuff.
I've always wanted to do that. They're amazing.
They're so cool.
So where is that? I'm sorry, but so where's the water actually emptying out to? Like, do you know, like to the area or?
It's just, from what the plumber said, it's just like directly into the below where the faucet is, because the under, like, all the soil is so sandy that it doesn't, they add like a gravel area and it just goes into the ground.
But so for where it's the main house is that coming out going south or
Oh, that
north?
direction.
Yeah.
So the kitchen would be, I guess, west a little, and the utility room would be south.
So you got basically like a passive water source going into that area near where actually like adjacent to where the tomato patch would be.
Yeah, not too far.
To the left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a connection right there, you know, and maybe if you know what the output of what's coming out of that water and you know that it's relatively benign or non-toxic, you know, that's a passive water source that you could use for more gardening or for the tomato patch right there.
Yeah, all my soaps are biodegradable, so
There you go. Yeah. So then, I mean, right there, that's like basically, you know, there, like capitalism would say, okay, well, you have this wastewater coming out, and then in permaculture, there's no such thing as waste. It's just a resource that you haven't like found found a use for yet. That's all. So it's just kind of making connections with everything. I know like one of the main ideas is having systems and functions. So, and I have this all in like a handout, I can send it to you. Each system should have 3 functions, and each of those functions should be able to like connect to another system. So everything's kind of like closed loop and integrated. Yeah. And so you just kind of like you're kind of stacking functions and systems together, so everything just kind of takes care of itself, and in the long run you basically are putting in minimal work effort for like the maximum profit. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I should tell you to pull up the picture. One of the longer term plans is converting this little carport into a greenhouse.
Cool.
um, because it's kind of small for a car,
Uh-huh.
and there's no south facing windows in the house,
Huh.
which I think is good probably for like if you were just using it as a summer home, but for it's really dark, and so it would
Hmm.
double as like letting in a lot more light and reducing having some passive solar,
Yes.
and also just extending a lot of plant possibilities, seed
Uh-huh.
starting and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's another idea too, is yeah, passive solar or thermal mass for the winter, so you don't have, that takes off of your heating bill, or even use of less wood if you have a fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I would almost consider the possibility of creating a south-facing window, if that's possible, um, because it's just the way that sun and heat works. Having that there will really help with that. It'll really help with that thermal mass, because
Yeah.
it'll help to just kind of insulate the house better. So you might want to consider something like that.
Well, the whole side is I wanted to have these. The whole side is the roof, but
Okay.
this wall here is
That's
actually it's actually just a few um like two pillars, and there's three. Someone for some reason blocked it off and just made three like it's like plywood, I think, to probably to protect from the winter, like snow getting in and stuff.
uh-huh.
So those I was gonna turn into like big window
Okay.
panels.
Okay, so I'm actually getting what you're saying. So that's where the south facing wall is.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
This is the south facing wall, yeah.
Awesome.
This
Then you're
whole
right on the money then. Like, I feel
yeah,
like that's perfect. What,
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, this whole thing is south.
Okay. Cool. Then just doing what you'd want to do, like by creating a greenhouse, like that would solve that issue altogether. Yeah. And then I don't know, I've wanted to do like a greenhouse with like a pond in it, and
Yeah, same. Greenhouse,
yeah.
pond, hot tub,
Sauna.
single lane swimming pool.
Having a pond in a south or southwest facing area is also helpful for like similar reasons. Again, because like the sun hits the surface of the water, and then when the light reflects off the water into like a south facing window or a greenhouse that's south facing, that's going to create some thermal mass that's going to shoot into the home, and it's going to keep it so warm. Yeah. So there's lots of tricks,
Yeah.
that are.
One of the other longer term things that is a little bit, why does it keep popping up? A little bit scary to me
Uh-huh.
is in the middle of the yard, in the backyard, this red uh, thing, there's like feet of old shingles buried.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so they're probably not even just because the house was built in the 50s, so there's a good chance that they're like asbestos shingles.
Okay. Um, there are ways of so that could be hmm problematic for growing food in that
Right.
in that area. And I would think of a way like like that might be good for somehow incorporating fungus somehow to like eat everything that's growing in that area. Like so there, I have to look more into that. So asbestos, but I'll just draw it right
And like
here.
asbestos and tar. It's like, oh,
Roof shingles,
but I guess I
circle.
was also wondering if maybe that's a good place to put the bog garden since it wouldn't be like stuff we'd be eating. And I don't know if I know that different boggy marsh stuff is able to pull up toxins, but I've only seen that they do um, heavy metals and things like that. I don't know about
You're on the right track.
like cattails. I know those
Yeah.
they absorb a lot of stuff.
Uh-huh. That's actually pretty smart. Um, yeah, I would think of something. Yeah, I would try to find again some kind of natural solution, whether it's yeah, some kind of fungus or if you created a berm there or you know, a mound. A pond sounds more ideal, but I'm just trying to give you yeah, just options.
What's a berm?
Well, a berm is usually more for, it's sort of like a mound. Yeah. And you kind of just, you're piling, it's not that different from like a hugel bed, really.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think for the area that you have right there, it's probably not going to be as attractive as a pond would be, you know?
Hmm.
So I think it's just a little bit more reading to make sure that you know that would be the solution for that problem. Yeah,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
hopefully it is because it seems like the right place to put a pond. It would look really nice right there in between the
yeah,
two buildings.
it would.
Yeah.
I mean, where wouldn't a pond look nice?
It's more just about whatever's around it, like whether like you know it's like in the way or doesn't look nice next to the pond, really.
Right.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm gonna check something else really quick. Um, do you have a compost bin already?
Oh yeah. Not a full bin, but we have been doing a compost pile by the cabana. Right about here.
Okay. When you start to get more in the flow of production, you're probably going to end up, it's going to be more than one. You'll probably have like, you know, you see these sort of streamline systems, you know, like they'll make like basically a line of it'll be like a fence, and then the fence will be divided up with other gates or whatever,
Mhm.
so that they're separate piles, and you start maybe on one end where the new material goes in, and as it breaks down then you move it into the next um, plot or square, and then as it gets further down it just is, it becomes dirt at that point.
Mhm.
So I think especially for the amount of property that you have, and as you start to have more food gardens and or food forests, that's going to be something that you might want to plan for, again, like you know, within a couple years or so as you start to have more systems in place. And whether or not you want it to be in that area, that actually seems like it would be a pretty good area facing south. Um, you don't really necessarily want it to be in shade, and you want to be able to get water to it, because watering it helps to break everything down, and turning it, so you're going to need room for for humans to be able to turn everything properly. And
Hmm.
yeah.
It's actually currently pretty shady. It's like in this.
Huh.
This is foresty.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a really easy solution overall for what you have going on is, it would look to me like the obvious choice would be to have your food gardens, like your veggies, your annuals, to the east, and maybe you have the line going from north to south with, like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 rectangular plots going from north to south. And then just looking again at how these two rectangles that are jutting up and then jutting down, you might want to consider just doing food forests, you know? And so integrating natural species in the area that'll attract wildlife to help with the work, and then, you know, bringing in, you know, cherry trees or apple trees, whatever fruit trees would grow really well in the area.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 There are, I have to add this to my list. There's um, a lot of native blueberries.
Blueberries are
They're so
awesome.
awesome. So, and they like to grow in among trees
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. They're really good for, they're easy. Like they actually like some shade. Yeah. Hmm. The only thing is, you want to kind of make sure that your soil, did you say something about the soil being more alkaline?
Yeah, that's what I understand. If it's mostly oak, right? Like the oak
Uh-huh.
leaves tend to go that direction. But then again, like a lot of the oak trees are dead or dying.
Uh-huh.
So it might be like just adding that to the planning process of removing some of the oak trees and putting in like more maples or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the idea, like, I think that if I were to get rid of dead and diseased trees, I would just make piles of them, or, you know, make hugel beds out of them, and arrange them. And there's, you know, you can do linear arrangements, or you can do mounds. You can do a keyhole shape, which is really ideal. And then try and consider if there's any kind of slope at all, if you're able to observe the way the water runs when it's raining, then when you set up, you kind of set up a keyhole to face, so that the opening is where the water is coming from. And then that way the water just gets caught inside of the keyhole, inside the mound, and then it just stores inside that hill. And then you can just grow so many things in that mound. And the idea is that you won't even have to really water very much. You know, the water should just be stored in the ground for throughout the year for the most part.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. But so you have a lot of amazing raw material to start with if you wanted to do something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really awesome.
Mm-hmm. And then let me go ahead and check this again. Okay, looking at. Have you thought about Okay, so there's zones, sectors, and then we just talked about slope a little bit. So like the usage of how, what you would describe like your daily usage of the land, um, just for you, like every day, like in relation to your home, which is like 0, right? And then you have as many zones as like however much work that you put into it. So if you had like a chicken coop and the chicken coop was right next to the house, that would be in zone 1, and then, an apiary, if you had bees, but they're farther south, that would be, probably zone 4, maybe, but just for the sake of like the way you've been living on this land for like the last year, and how you travel, um, do you think you have a rough idea of like what your zones might be? Just like most frequent traveled to like least frequent traveled areas of the property.
Um, Definitely between most frequent between the buildings.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then next would be this strip
Yeah, that
going
totally makes.
towards the lake, and just like, because I go for walks this way most often,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to explore this side. There's no other, this side of the block, there's no other occupants, human
Okay.
occupants. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have been poking around in here, and it's kind of like there's a lot of it might have been just litter, or they might have dumped for a while, but there's a lot of cans and bottles and like vintage stuff that
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to like go through there every once in a while and pick stuff out, like clean it out.
Mm-hmm.
um and also the woods are, they haven't been like, no one's really used them, it seems like, for quite a while. So um there's not like trails through here or anything. It's just like there's a lot of low brush, oops,
Mm-hmm.
um and plants and debris that they're not they're not currently user friendly.
Okay. So that's technically not your property, but it's just like open land there.
Everything in the yellow line is, but
Yeah.
these little, like this section is foresty,
Yeah.
and eventually I'm hoping I can get
Work with it. Yeah.
get them.
Yeah, I could see how once you feel more established, longer term, you'd be able to do more gardens down there, or maybe even a greenhouse. That would be really nice. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, like this studio, it's a dilapidated barn. There's like the roof is falling in and the bricks are coming out, but I
Uh,
consider it my future studio. And if um I keep imagining like the sun, the way the sun falls here, like if
uh-huh.
some of these trees were pulled out, you would have the same effect in this, like this could make a really good patch of for sun loving stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe also another um partial greenhouse on the like extension or something for passive solar for the building and like extra growing space.
Uh-huh. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to say that I forgot. So yeah, because with the soil quality and pH, I'm like
Mhm.
jumping back now. Sorry. It seems
No,
confusing.
Thank you, because I'm just like in dreamland, so please, please pull me back as much as.
It's cool. Because I know a lot of berries, particularly blueberries, like acidic soil. So then you would just have to think of ways to acidify the soil. And I mean, there's very conventional ways. And then something very easy, like just, if there's coffee drinkers, just use your coffee grounds, and when you're planting. Yeah, and that'll help. I've actually heard theoretically you want to try and use fresh coffee grounds because they're going to have like even more acid in them.
Mm.
But a lot of people want to drink their coffee first. So, and I understand that. It's just something to think about, or maybe throwing a little for however much used coffee grounds, like maybe try throwing in a couple cups of like fresh coffee grounds in there with them. It couldn't hurt. Yeah. But that I know that they produce better. And then also blueberries do better when you have multiple varieties. You don't want to monocrop blueberries at all because they won't thrive. Like you want to have multiple varieties. Yeah. Because they somehow do a lot better that way. Yeah. And then once they start to take off, they kind of will just become their own variety.
Cool.
Yeah.
Community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nature's all about diversity. Like everything about nature is diversity. Like you know, I think humans are like the only thing that are like, no.
Parasites.
Yeah. A work in progress. An experiment, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of would you say that there are animals traveling at all through the property or
Um, I haven't seen a lot, just deer
okay.
as far as like larger mammals. We do have feeders in the front yard for
Uh-huh.
birds, and that's there's a lot of traffic bird
From
wise.
birds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's also a lot of cats.
Okay.
So I don't know if to what extent they've like reduced other animals that are around.
Right.
And it's something that I'm hoping I can help work on. I think they're really popular with some people because there's an area um over in between the lakes near our post office, which is
Mm-hmm.
like around here. There's like a kitty city, and people bring like every day bring piles of cat food, and there's a whole bunch. They just hang out there.
Wow.
So I'm hoping like if there's that much interest, maybe they'd be into having like a cat sanctuary inside, and, and like transferring. But I don't know. Because I've read a lot of articles about their environmental impact, and that
Yeah.
it makes me sad.
It's unfortunate. They're one of my favorite animals too.
Me
I
too,
love
yeah. And
I
they're so
always
weird and cute.
I know. Yeah, I always my cat would bring me little gifts and I'd feel so bad. And
Yeah.
like yes, I know you love me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen some smaller stuff like mice and voles, and there's a lot of chipmunks and squirrels. But I think also we saw a porcupine.
Oh, cool.
Um, but not a ton of other. I've been surprised, like, um, I guess after being in Provincetown, I'm missing the foxes and stuff like that. But
Uh-huh.
I know they're out there.
I was gonna say, so it doesn't sound like you have major predators in your immediate area.
Not
other
that
than
I've
cats.
seen. Yeah, and I know also like my neighbor says that there's a bunch of bear and bobcats and stuff like that. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen them yet.
Okay. Yeah, because then when you start thinking about things like chicken coops and apiaries, goat pens, you need to think about fencing and electric. You need to think about maybe having other animals, like dogs or llamas and alpacas.
Hmm.
Like if you want to raise goats, something that people do, like whether or not you want to raise llamas and alpacas is like, your business altogether. But if you raise a herd of goats, people will raise a llama or an alpaca with the goats, and it will be accepted as one of the goats. And as it grows and gets bigger, it will actually defend the herd from, like a bobcat,
Hmm.
yeah, or a mountain lion attack even.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were thinking about goats and seeing if um we could work in some like wider community plan because there is a lot of just neglected foresty areas, and I know that goats are really great at rehabilitating um, understory and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they're really good at eating everything, so
Yeah.
they'll clear and like create open land for you like in no time, and they fertilize and everything. Yeah.
Mhm. And they're
Hmm.
cool. And also Angora rabbits.
Yeah.
My neighbor over on this side has some rabbits already, and she's already like, we can share soil and stuff, which is really sweet. Um,
Awesome.
and I just love the idea of like both Angora goats and Angora rabbits would be really cool.
Yeah.
So I'll look at llamas and alpacas for sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I keep wondering about this bog, if there's some way, or if it's, I'm not even sure if this is legal or not, but if there's some way you'd be able to, I guess if you have well water, it probably won't matter as much, but if there's some way of utilizing that bog.
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's kind of just a matter of time before I get enough money. Like these
Mhm.
little lots around it have been up for sale on and off a couple
Okay.
times already since I've been here. So
How much are they?
a little, I think there was a strip over here. The guy said it was 20 acres, which seems like it must be this whole side or something.
That's pretty good.
For 20 or 30,000.
That's pretty good.
I
That's
know
a
it's good, but it's like I don't have that. Like totally reasonable. How about $500?
well, if you happen to get, recruit other people, who had money and resources to share, that might be something that could be a way that they could contribute, is by buying up land shares to
Totally.
help you out,
Yeah.
and then maybe whatever it is that they're doing, then you network together to share, how that works. Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely want to figure something out because the person that was selling it was saying like, "Oh, it's a great property to build on." And I'm like, "No, don't build on it. It already has a couple of cute houses and I feel like that's enough, you know."
No, I mean just to have it for just a general land use for food production and for naturalization. Yeah, totally.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. I think also it could use some restoration work
Yeah.
because I think the area in general is it's very low income and neglected in terms of like access to trash removal, and so a lot of places have been used over the years as like dump sites because people
Mhm.
just don't like they don't have the money or there's not a good trash removal service coming
Uh-huh.
through.
Yeah, that tends to happen in rural areas, like
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's just like car graveyards and dumping grounds and
yeah. I think
old washing machines
a lot of
and
mattresses. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
good times. You
Totally.
can take this if you take a box spring mattress apart, like the springs are really awesome. They have so many valuable uses. You know, when you hold them up vertically, they're awesome trellises.
I actually the tomato patch. I used some bed frames that were
Yeah,
around, so and they worked
yeah.
really well.
So it sounds like you've been already doing research and DIYing it out yourself, you know?
Totally. Some completely inspired by your videos, your like Tupperware greenhouse things and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the little mini things.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fun. I made myself a little mini like moss terrarium. It's just like, you know, like there's all these if you go to like a you I don't know, just like an old secondhand store or whatever, and they have, you know, plastic and glass containers, like tons of them, and they're not really being used for anything, and it's really easy enough to convert one of those into like a mini growing space for seeds or, you know, for plants or whatever, like making terrariums out of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, it's pretty fun.
Totally.
Uh-huh. Let me see
Yeah, we
where
really need a local swap shop. I'm jonesing for the P Town swap shop.
yeah, that's where I have to stay away from there.
I would go like at least once a week.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing to do. I just go in and I buy all their glass basically. It's like
Hmm.
$2. I'm like, ooh, I want that. But so 12 principles, like to just go over this
Yeah.
really quickly. So like the main thing is to observe and interact, landscape dynamics and patterns of energy in a given site. So all observations are important. Number two, catch and store energy. So there's different types: solar, air, water, people, wild or domestic animals. How to capture the resource and utilize it intentionally as it flows through the landscape. So that kind of just speaks to like what we already touched on with like the sun and how rain and weather comes into the area. Number three is obtaining a yield. So yield is only limited by the creativity of the designer. How creatively can you stack yields? And that's something to be determined over time. Were you ever wanting to do like bees or anything?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I guess I always imagine them in more open, sunny places. Um,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if this is the best land to host them on, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
even for like the Righteous Boulevard area, because it
Oh, uh-huh.
is like a if it were just flowers and stuff on here, this strip.
When bees have a home, they actually have like a approximately like 3.5, 4 mile, I think, radius from the hive. So that's about 7, 8 miles in circumference
Mm.
from where they live to like where they will harvest. So oftentimes people think like by planting it right in front of the hives, like they're really helping. It's like, no, well, they go so far, like they're probably gonna, it probably wouldn't matter. It'll matter for them because it's right there and they will go to it. But they travel far enough that I don't know, that it almost doesn't matter in that sense. But in within the span that they can travel, like the more abundance of habitats that they can harvest from, the better, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's something I have to do more of before I die, is like more beekeeping.
Yeah, I've been around them and worked on farms that had bees, but I've not done a lot of like of the work myself in that area. But they seem so magical.
Yeah, yeah, I've done the coursework. I've done like 3 years of coursework on it, and I've helped with beehives on the homestead I lived on. Um, yeah, and there's like really nothing like it. It's amazing. Um, so number 4 is apply self-regulation and accept feedback. So do your best to automate the design, but don't take yourself out of the equation. Define your level of involvement and stick to it. So that's also paying attention to how the system is responding to whatever it is you do to alter it. Does it need more or less of something in order to work more efficiently? Yeah. So then I think that also kind of speaks to like the long-term investment of like your input startup of like money and work and resources to get it to that long-term goal of not really having to do any work at all, and then the land is still producing for you, you know. Number 5 is use and value renewable resources and services. Always favor bio solutions. How can an animal or plant aspect of nature be utilized to solve an issue? So biological solutions live on and regenerate over time. Number 6 is produce no waste. So waste doesn't exist in natural systems. MOOP is like the acronym, which means matter out of place. So waste is an unused output of any system. Think of outflow and challenge yourself how to use resources creatively within your system. Number 7 is design from pattern to detail. So naturally occurring pattern recognition is the precursor to design. Understand the larger external patterns working through any system. So weather patterns or human traffic patterns. It's also dependent upon the season. So focus on the patterns that influence the flow of energy through the land, which we've talked a lot about that already. Integrate rather than segregate. Functional interactions or relationships between different entities. How does the chicken coop interact with the herb garden, for example? So consider beneficial interactions through the integration of multiple elements. This makes me think about how when a lot of success stories that I've heard about people who do chicken coops, they will have a mulberry tree because it's everything about the mulberry is really nutritious and beneficial to the success of hens laying really healthy eggs. They love them. They love mulberries. Yeah, and as the tree gets large, it provides provides shade and safety for them. You know, if they're happen to be open grazing chickens, or you could have, I've seen basically like a hen house with like an open pen area that's got like a free range area that's got fence, but the tree is inside, and it's kind of like sheltering the coop and the chickens from the sun and from like hawks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a very good strategy. So what else? Use small and slow solutions. So that allows you to be more flexible to incoming information and energy flows, allowing you to alter your design and adapt as you go, building systems of longevity and resilience well into the future. Number 10 is use and value diversity. So stacking functions and mixing elements together. This sounds a little redundant. By valuing diversity of plants, animals, people, this will help build robust, resilient systems. Diversity allows you to spread the risk management across a wide range of production areas, making you less susceptible to pests, diseases, predators, etc. It also provides more opportunities to harvest throughout the year. Yeah. So then I think that that just kind of goes to how many different creative ways can you use the land that you have. You know, so again, like everything from a food forest to an annual garden to a chicken coop, to an herb garden to maybe an area where you just grow sprouts, like, you know, on your counter in the sunny window in the kitchen area. Um, yeah. Number 11 is use edges and value the marginal. Edges are where two systems or sectors join together, creating more abundance and diversity, a forest and a pasture, for example. So an edge means 1 + 1 = 3. So have you heard of that before? How that works? So basically, if you have like a open plain, like a hilly open plain area, and then you have a forest. So right where the two meet is the edge. And oftentimes the edge has got its own life forms. There will be birds that only live in open plains, and there will be birds that live in the forest. And there will be birds that, like, basically those two species will meet right where the edge is. And then there will be certain species of birds and other plants and animals that only live on the edge. For whatever reason, they just adapted over time to only exist on the edge. Something that I've been told about with indigenous practices and beliefs on land usage. And I don't know if you may have heard the term for like a power spot, you know, in land. So a power spot is basically an area in nature that has basically somehow managed to maximize the number of edges in an ecosystem, creating like numerous microbiomes, and they all like kind of intersect, and that's a power spot. So people kind of think of that, they use, like, you know, people will often hear the term and they think of it as some like mystical woo thing, and it's like, no, it's a very like indigenous permaculture based like idea of how the environment and the resources are in abundance in a specific area.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But so to come back to the point of like your property, with what I'm seeing, so I mean, it looks like you've got, you know, it's pretty woodsy, but then from basically where the bog is, you know, like that would be an example of an edge, basically, because the habitat is completely changing around the bog in relation to where the woods are, you know. So those are kind of two overlapping ecosystems. Yeah. And then, so just in the area around the shore of the pond, you would probably find a lot of different species of animals and foods that wouldn't exist anywhere else in either area. Yeah. So it's just another element to think about. And then, did I read them all? I don't know. I think there was one more. Creatively, so number 12 is creatively use and respond to change. Respond, don't react. Resilient systems can respond to change thoughtfully and creatively. Every element in your system should have 3 functions, and every important function should be supported by at least 3 elements. Yeah, and I think we talked about that earlier too. So an element would just be like annual food gardens, and then considering how, when you're making a food garden, um, you're gonna have soil that becomes spent from overuse, and then how that soil can filter into another system or another function.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you have chickens, so the chickens are making poop, and then so the system would be the chickens, the chicken coop, but then the functions would be like fertilizer, and then getting rid of pests, pest management, and then a food source by laying eggs, so like right away you have three functions and a system right there. I guess that's a good example. Yeah.
Not to mention they're adorable.
Yes, their noises and stuff, they're really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, like, because they totally do like the pecking order thing, and when I lived at Kate and Chuck's, and I could be anywhere on the property, anywhere. I could be inside and I could hear them outside just like clucking at each other and talking and stuff. And then all of a sudden, randomly, one of them would be like, "Ah!" like really loud. And that's just like the sound of basically one chicken like pecking at the other chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way they sound, to me, it sounds like really vulgar. It sounds like they're cussing. Like it feels, yeah, and it just makes me laugh because it just sounds like they're like, fuck.
One of my favorite things is the way they drink. It's so like, it looks so luxurious, and like they're really taking care of themselves. And one time I was watching, there was like actually in Ecuador, I was woofing down there, and they had a whole family of chickens that would just wander around, and they were circled around this little puddle, and the little baby chicks were doing the same thing where they like dip their heads up, and then they have to put their head back to let it go down their throat, and it just looks like they're in heaven. I was like, oh, that is amazing. They're
I
just
hadn't
water.
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I'm gonna do that next time I see it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like, water. Yeah. Let's see. But so I don't know if any of this is helping or
Super helping.
just giving you more stuff to chew on.
This is exactly what I needed and wanted, is just like solid things.
Yeah. I feel it's good for me. I'm excited about it because I actually get to talk about stuff that I love and that I want more of in my life,
Mm.
So I also like really appreciate this because I'm just doing what's closer to my heart. So and I feel rusty. I'm like, because there's so much that like I'm just not in the regular practice of being immersed in it every day the way I want to be.
Yeah.
And it would be good for me to do like another cert like this year or something, just to like keep it fresh. Because ultimately I don't want to stay here. I don't want to be a townie. I want to live on some land.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I've got some room.
Yeah.
Come visit.
Yeah.
Just
That
like
would.
boss me around and be like, this is what we've got to do today.
I'm not very good. Well, I mean, I can be bossy, but it really depends. It's like, I don't know. I'm not very good at it if I'm like happy.
Yeah. Mhm.
So in a perfect world, I don't have to be bossy.
Well,
You
you could passively write a to-do list and I'll find it and I'll do some of this stuff. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if I'm in a place, like if I'm spending time there, then, and I'm getting to know the environment, it's easier for me to come up with, through my observation, like, just what I'm seeing, like, looks like what could go where, or, what works, yeah, what doesn't work. Yeah.
Really.
hmm But it's fun. I think it's so much fun, personally. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I'm at the border of like, well, for a while I have been of being really excited about it, and then also like, oh no, how do I actually, like, I have a whole box of seeds. When do I
Mhm.
start doing things with the, like each going through each one? So I also I just finished putting them on a list, like all the
Mhm.
seeds that I just stress bought, which began last summer, and then there were like peaks during the riot, and I was like, oh my god, everything's
Mhm.
falling apart. But I have a lot of seeds now, and I also have some friends that have farms up here that, like, the person that did all the tomatoes will probably give me more tomato starts and things like that.
Cool.
So, and also with Interlaken, they have a greenhouse and like a whole farming thing,
Uh-huh.
um, that they do a lot of sharing. So just, I think my next thing, because I don't even totally know where they're going yet, but I know that some of the seeds are going to need to start being.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm so used to, like, because I'm talking to friends and family, of course, in California, and they're already starting, like, they're growing your,
Right.
and I'm like, whoa. And I remember this time last year being like, all right, I'm ready to garden. And I must have tried starting seeds like 3 or 4 times and like putting them somewhere outside, and then they just kept dying.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an experiment. And I'm like, it's a later season out here for sure.
Super late. Yeah, and here.
Mhm.
But I was thinking of, or trying to figure out which ones want to be would like to be started in a greenhouse or something while I'm teaching, and then um later in the spring transfer
Yeah,
stuff.
there's a lot of cold hardy crops. I mean, anything that's like cruciferous, like brassica based, anything in that family would probably be good to start now. Lettuces, beets. Beets can grow in like ice sometimes. Like,
Wow.
yeah. If you can ever find perennial kale, like that shit's amazing
Hmm.
because it'll grow into like a tree.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It will be like a 10-foot tall, kind of lanky tree, but it'll produce, and they're perennial. They're amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. You can do cuttings of them, like they propagate easy too.
Okay.
hmm Yeah. Was there anything else? I don't know, like vibe check? I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, that was really awesome. I think it's probably a good place to start for now
okay.
and
I'm
figure.
curious to know more about how your annual veggie production, like that in that area, like how that's gonna go. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
No, I just no, that was great. I just based on my neighbor that's on the same road. She's actually facing the bog and has this thing. It's really, really beautiful, kind of like hidden garden, secret garden in her backyard. Um, and so she has a lot of really high production. She gave us like I think 3 or 4 jars of canned peaches.
Nice.
We put that on my tree wish list.
Yeah, I
And
would.
yeah, and just tons of veggies and stuff. So I'm excited.
my parents have a peach tree in their backyard in San Jose, and I planted it there. I don't know how long ago. It's crazy that it's even still there. Like it's kind of diseased and not doing very well. It's got curleaf, but my dad is still growing it, and it's still pretty. It's in like the tiniest, because my parents live in a townhouse. It's just like a glorified cute apartment with like maybe 20 by 10 foot backyard. It's like small, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a big oak peach tree in the middle of it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, very
I can't
fond of
wait to
that.
plant some trees.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe if you're into it in like uh another few weeks or in the next month when I start doing seeds, we could touch base again. And I could show you the greenhouse on campus too.
Okay,
You know,
sounds like
they
fun.
have they even have they have a little fish tank in there for
Aquaponics.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
I love. Yeah, that's something on some level, like with the bog. That's something. Like if I just happened to, even if that was like my plot of land, I'd be thinking somehow of incorporating that into like an aquaponic farm. Yeah,
Mm.
that's another
Yeah,
idea.
you know, there was a, a conservation corps here, and it was actually an all black um, regiment during the Great Depression, and they built a fish hatchery on the other side of Idlewild Lake.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to figure out if there's anything still there, but they did a lot of tree planting, and it is, I've been told by several people that like, oh, it would be great um, fishery aquaponic area.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, using what already exists. Yeah.
I'd love
Mhm.
to think about that.
Yeah. Cool. Yay, I'm excited for you. I'm a little jealous.
Alice, I need you. It's
Cool.
shared, fully shared.
Okay.
So much
Cool.
for putting time and energy into this too.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I mean, it's good. Like, you're gonna keep me on my A game, so, which
Yeah,
is what I need.
yeah, yeah. And there's so many little houses like mine. So think about it.
I am. I really am. Because I need to like strategic, like what am I doing after this year? Because I'm like, no, I don't think I'm staying.
Yeah. Did you see just like a week or two ago? Um, there was a Saturday Night Live sketch about Trulia, and it was really, really
Was it Zillow? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
I think I posted it. Yeah, that was funny.
It
Because it's so true.
was-
We'll just look at the houses, and then it's funny how are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. You like blipped a little. But they'll hit you up like right. I'm like, I don't have any money. I'm just
Oh my
looking.
God. That was the best part when they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I do not want to talk